Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Rob Derry with the Connecticut State Police. Rob, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Peter. Thanks for having me on once again.
Thanks for coming down. It's been a while, my buddy. What's new?
Yeah, well, listen, I think we're all in the same boat. We're trying to get through all this nonsense over the last year, and hopefully with the warm weather coming and the vaccinations being out there, we're slowly pulling out of this so we can get back to some sense of normalcy. But yeah, life goes on, and we all do our best.
Cool. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a resident of the town of Clinton for the last almost 22 years now.
Okay.
And I am been with the state police for the last almost 27. And prior to that, I was a local police officer for almost 5 years. So I'm in year 31 of law enforcement here in the state of Connecticut. And I still have a strong passion for law enforcement. I love it. I love dealing with people. It's amazing the amount of people that you meet in this line of work and the things that you can do, even with all these years on. And that's why I'm still here. It's just a great job, a lot of fun. And so I've since moved into a little bit of politics, as you know.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be elected to the Clinton Police Commission in November of 2019. So right. I'm a civilian member of the Clinton Police Commission, which has zero association with my profession as far as being a state trooper.
Yeah.
The two are completely separate from each other. So being a member of the Clinton Police Commission has been really an enjoyable time since I've been doing it. The commission is made up with a phenomenal group of people. And the police department in Clinton, as we all know, is really a top-notch organization.
Absolutely.
Led by Chief DeMayo and his captains and the rank and file. It really is a great organization, and I'm very, very proud to be somewhat of a part of it as a civilian police commissioner.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think I had you on with me when you were running.
You probably did, Peter, and that's probably why I won the election.
I was going to say, I believe I did, Rob. I believe I did. So
Yes.
From what I understand, speaking of wonderful things in the world, you recently got promoted since the last time I saw you.
So I did. They made me what's called a master sergeant. So there's about 12 master sergeants within the entire state police. And what a master sergeant does is they are what's called the executive officer of a state police barracks. So we have 11 state police barracks or troops across the state of Connecticut.
Sure.
So upon me getting made a master sergeant, they put me over at Troop E in Montville along I-395. So that's where I am now, the executive officer. An executive officer basically runs the day-to-day operation of the barracks to include scheduling and fleet management and the grounds. And you got your hands involved in a lot of different things. Right. And so I'm really enjoying this role. And it's the first time in my state police career I've been assigned to Troop E in Montville. So it's nice to go to somewhere different, a new area to learn, new people to work alongside with. And essentially Troop E in Montville, that state police barracks is responsible for essentially the southeastern corner of the state of Connecticut. So there's a lot of things over there as well know. I-395, I-95. We have the sub base right there, the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. We have a lot of industry with Pfizer and Electric Boat. And obviously the casinos are in that area of operation as well. So it can be a very, very busy location, but I'm enjoying it. And it's going great.
Cool. Now, Rob, how important now with us in the middle of a pandemic, how does that basically affect day-to-day operations of what you guys do at the Connecticut State Police?
Well, obviously, since day one of this pandemic being identified and being labeled, law enforcement and public safety, our jobs cannot stop. So we have to continue to respond, continue to be able to help people and deal with situations. So like everybody else, when this all started, we took the necessary precautions. We were able to get enough personal protective equipment for our troopers out in the field. And we have since put in policies and procedures in place to properly deal with situations while keeping our troopers as safe as possible. And obviously wearing a mask when we deal with folks out there. We obviously all have hand sanitizers all in our cars, the nitrile rubber gloves that we all use. So we're taking the most precautions as we can. We also have, we have a lot of discretion out there. So if we find some sort of a violation that puts us into a predicament where we have to make an arrest, not every arrest do you have to handcuff somebody and bring them in. We do have some sort of a leeway where we can actually issue them a summons to go to court instead of actually having to handcuff them, put them in our police car, and bring them to the state police troops to fingerprint them. So we have exercised that discretion a little bit more than we usually have in the past. Okay. So that's helping out. We do our best to stay on top of the cleanliness at each state police facility. We limit what we have for as far as people inside the building, unless we really necessarily have to have people inside. So, we're doing the best we can, just like everybody else in the world and in the country. And, we have had some troopers that came down with COVID, which is understandable because it's just the world that we've lived in. But our numbers, like the numbers of the state, are dramatically improving. And I think we're doing very well. And hopefully we are slowly pulling out of this mess to a degree where we can feel a little bit more of a sense of normalcy. Although we can't get too cautious, we can't get too crazy with that. We still got to make sure that we exercise, the proper precautions and safety measures, because we do definitely want everybody to get as healthy as possible.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I'm sure during the last year of the pandemic, I'm sure schooling has become an issue because everybody's remote learning. And I'm sure that's an experience.
Sure. And that goes for everybody. I think everybody who has children in the school and who have to go out, not everybody can work at home like a lot of people have been doing. And I think that's a great opportunity for people to be able to do that. Obviously, in my line of work, that's not an option. Right. Law enforcement, we don't work from home. So I haven't missed a beat. We've continued to go out and work every day and continue to do our job. So that does put a strain on some issues. Obviously, if you have younger children that require some sort of a supervision issue, and we've had that with our troopers, and we do our best to work with them, whether we have to change their shifts to accommodate something at home. It's our number one job is to take care of our people and also to take care of the people of the state of Connecticut. So, we do our best with what we can, but at the end of the day, we have a job to do, and that job hasn't skipped a beat since all this started, and we're right on top of things.
Speaking of not missing a beat, the last snowstorm that we had, I was home, and I was flipping around the TV. You were all over the television dial there, my friend.
Well, yeah, over the years, I've kind of got into some sort of a role of being the local public information officer for the state police barracks in which I was assigned. So in the state police, we have a public information office, which is based out of headquarters, and they do all the day-to-day public information. However, we do have a public information liaison at each particular state police barracks. And just over the sheer fact of years of doing this and just continuing to do this job, you develop a lot of relationships and a lot of connections. And so when that kind of thing happens, News Channel 8 or Channel 3 or whoever it may be will give me a call. Hey, can you come on and talk about the weather? I'm like, yeah, sure. So we've been doing that for quite some time. And again, it's just one of those things where we like to get the word out that here's what we're doing, here's what we're seeing. And those particular storms, a couple of them were pretty dicey storms. So, we try to get the message out and let, in those situations, if you do not have to go out and there's nothing really making you go out, stay home. We have a lot of accidents, a lot of people spinning off the road in those situations. So it's just trying to get the word out. And, I'm very appreciative of the media for reaching out to us to allow us that avenue to explain and get the word out to people.
Absolutely. And what else do we want to tell people about the Connecticut State Police?
Well, I can tell you we are in a very, very heavy recruitment drive. Okay. So we anticipate a lot of retirements over the next couple of years. So our department is doing our due diligence and trying to prepare for that. So currently we have a state police recruit class. I believe it's about 114 what's called recruits are in it right now. Okay. And they've been in for about 2 months, which I think the first 8 or 10 weeks have been virtual because of the COVID. issues. And obviously, we at State Police Academy is in Meriden, and we do not want to have too many recruits in a room, which creates COVID issues and things like that. So I know, and I believe next week the recruits are going to report to the academy full time and continue on with their training, which is very, very intense and labor intensive and very, very it's very physical as far as physical fitness, and academics are very, very strong. So we have about a 25%, give or take 25% attrition rate within state police training, meaning that if we start with 100 people, we hope to graduate 75, because some people either voluntarily withdraw themselves from the process because it wasn't what they wanted to do, or once they get into it, they realize, yeah, this is not my thing. Right. Or some people actually academically may fail out. So we do have a pretty high attrition rate, but we also have very high standards that we want to maintain, because when you have a trooper that graduates the State Police Academy, that trooper is really given a vast amount of authority and responsibility. Right. So that's something that we cannot dole out lightly. So somebody's got to show by their efforts and education abilities, and that they are able to basically assume that role properly and carry on the traditions of the state police. So it's a great program. It's a great organization. I talk very highly of it, as I will continue to do. I've had a very blessed career, and every time I see somebody, who I think would be a good fit, I try to talk them into getting in law enforcement. We need good people.
There you go, Sergeant Derry. Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Yeah, absolutely, Pete.
All right, we'll be right back.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Greg, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Hello, everybody. Your old pal Grover here with some health tips. Wash your hands throughout the day with soap and water for 20 seconds. Whoa, 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 whoa! Also, practice physical distance by staying 6 feet away from people in public, and do not forget to wear a mask. And wow! So that is where the soap went.
Caring for each other, because we are all in this together.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Rob Derry from the Connecticut State Police. Rob, welcome back.
Thank you, Peter. Glad to be here.
Thanks, my friend. Hey, Rob, tell us, I know we talked a little bit about in the first segment the recruitment of becoming a state police officer for the state of Connecticut. Can we maybe get into a little bit of more of a detail of what it entails and what it involves?
Sure. So every so often, there's really no schedule. It's when they begin a selection process. The Connecticut State Police, through the Department of Administrative Services, will put out an announcement that the state police is in an active recruiting drive. Okay. And I want to say the last one just wrapped up a few weeks ago. And I believe it was open for about a month and a half to try to get people to sign up to begin the process of going through state police recruitment. So what you have to do is go through the Department of Administrative Services and fill out a job application electronically for the position of what's called trooper trainee.
Okay.
So, upon doing that, once the date closes, we have a unit within the state police called the selections unit that this is what they handle. And they work very closely with the Department of Administrative Services, which we refer to as DAS, which is basically all the human resources side of the state of Connecticut. Okay. So once that is done, they go through a series and batteries of testing to include a written component. It's more like a questionnaire and going over different aspects of the job, to a physical fitness assessment, which, believe it or not, we lose a lot of potential candidates through the physical fitness assessment, whether it be there's certain standards that they have to hit. It's through the Cooper standards. And so it's a minimal number, say, of push-ups, sit-ups, running a mile and a half in a certain amount of time. And it's all age-based. So there's age brackets of, say, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, 41 to 50. So every age bracket has a different minimum score that they have to hit. And then there's also a 350-yard sprint. It's the same situation where you have to hit a minimum score. But yeah, we lose a lot of people for that for some reason. I don't know if it's just they're not prepared for it, or they didn't think what it was, or didn't really know what it was going to be. But all the information about the physical fitness assessment is clearly available on the state police website under the recruitment and selections tab within our account. So it's very clear what you have to do. So should you pass that, you move on to the background portion of the investigation, where a state police detective will be assigned to do a very thorough and comprehensive background on the prospective candidate. And that includes talking to your neighbors, talking to your former employers, talking to your former education locations, whether that be college, high school, et cetera. They look into your financial history to make sure you're responsible and paying your bills on time, that you're responsible as far as financially goes. They look into, like I said, your work history. I mean, you name it, they are going to find out everything about you. They come to your house. The detectives will come to your house. They'll request to take a look at your car to make sure your car is properly registered and insured. I mean, you name it. They're gonna turn over all the rocks to make sure that there's nothing that we don't know about you. Exactly. And part of that is going to move on to what's called the polygraph examination. So the polygraph is essentially a lie detector. So we have troopers that are specially trained in our polygraph unit, and that's all they do is do polygraph examinations for potential recruits. They do it for local police departments, and they also do it for criminal investigations. It's a tool for criminal investigations. When we have somebody that we believe committed a serious crime, they will request that individual take a polygraph examination, and then our polygraphers will sit that person down and go through the process. So it's a very taxing process, but it's a great tool. So believe it or not, that also, the polygraph really knocks out a lot of candidates by either something that came up in their past that's really not conducive with what the state police are looking for, or it just kind of calls into question their decision-making ability or character. So once that is all done, you pass that, you keep moving on. So then we have what's called the medical physical. The medical physical is really like a physical, like you go to your doctor and go through the battery of tests to get your blood drawn. They do a comprehensive drug screen and make sure that there's no sign of you doing any illicit narcotics in your past. So it's again, we have to go through this because it's so, the amount of authority that we receive as state troopers throughout the state of Connecticut is really, it's massive, and we got to make sure that the people who are bestowed that authority are able to do it properly, utilize good common sense and judgment, and really doing the right thing. You know, we're a very historic agency, being that of the Connecticut State Police. We were founded in 1903, and so we are, believe it or not, the little state of Connecticut is the oldest uniformed law enforcement, state law enforcement department in the United States.
Really?
Starting in 1903. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, but it's true.
I didn't know that.
So we have a lot of traditions and pride, and even the retirees, who I know many of them who have been retired for many, many, many years, they still are very, very prideful of the agency, of being a former state trooper, and it's a phenomenal agency, and it's been a phenomenal career for me. You know, I'm actually not looking forward to retire, but that day will come. Right. But you know, I could have retired almost 7 years ago, but I'm still here because I really thoroughly enjoy it, and the people, the work that we do every day. You know, there's not too many days, if any, I get up in the morning and say to myself, boy, I don't want to go to work today. It just doesn't happen. I mean, it's very rare. So again, it's one of those things when you feel that way about your job, no matter what the job is, if you have that passion for whatever you're doing in life, it doesn't feel like a job. I tell everybody that I feel like I haven't worked a day in my life. Right. And I say that not because I'm lazy and don't do anything. I say that because I enjoy getting up and going to work every day. So absolutely. I know I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And again, in hindsight, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing.
Really?
Absolutely, all day long.
Wow. Now, as far as the things go, and I'm sure on a day-to-day operation, your day is probably never the same, and you never know what you're walking into, correct?
Well, that's the thing in police work. Yeah, absolutely. And it's no matter where you work, no matter what law enforcement agency, whether it be in a town somewhere, a city, a state, law enforcement inherently is that type of job where you just don't know what's going to go on. It could be the most boring day. You're driving around patrolling and making sure everything's going okay, make sure nobody needs anything. And then all of a sudden, it could be total chaos in a split second. And I've experienced that many, many times in my career. But again, that's part of the rarity of this job in public safety, is that you just never know when it's going to get crazy. And as we all know, the tragic events of 9/11 back in 2001, who went running into all those buildings? It was law enforcement. It was the fire department, right? It was all those people that are there to try to help people, whereas everybody else is running out of it. Right. Law enforcement, fire departments, EMS, they're all running in because they want to help people, and their lives are secondary compared to trying to take care of everybody else. So it's a very prideful way of life. The last thing you think about, at least in my career, when you're dealing with some of these hectic situations, is not your safety, although you should be thinking about your safety, but it's really you're trying to take care of either victims that need help or your fellow trooper that may need some serious assistance in something that could be somewhat life-threatening. So it's really, at the end of the day, you go home and you feel good about your job. I mean, you really do. And even here I am sitting here talking to you about it, and I enjoy it. I can sit here and probably talk all night and bore everybody who may be watching this and saying, "Oh, geez, this is more." But you know what? It's truly a passion, and many of us in law enforcement feel the same way. Not all, but many of us do. And I will tell you, and with everything going on in the world, especially over the last year, socially, there's a lot of different things that are being thrown at us. Some right, some wrong, but that's for people's own opinion. But at the end of the day, we have a job to do. We will continue to do it, regardless of what goes on out there. We are an agency that is steeped in rules and regulations, and we are proud to say that we try to do the right thing every day.
Now, as far as what's going on in the world, how does that affect day-to-day operations of what the Connecticut State Police do?
Well, we continue to do our job. We've been what's called accredited, which means we have national accreditation in law enforcement because of the policies and procedures and things we've had in place for many, many years. Now, we've been in accredited since 1988. So we were one of the first state police agencies in the country to be accredited. So, luckily, the leaders of the state police over the years and currently are very forward-thinking. For example, part of the Police Accountability Act that came about last summer is all Connecticut law enforcement agencies have to have cameras mounted in their police cars, as well as having body cameras. Now, I will tell you, the Connecticut State Police, I've had a camera in my police car since about 1999. So we are well ahead of that. Body cameras are somewhat relatively new, but I will tell you, we've had body cameras for about maybe 2 or 3 years now, well before that Accountability Act put that as a requirement. So that's just one example of how we are kind of way ahead of the curve by the fact that our leaders kind of see that coming and really go after best practices in law enforcement. And because of that, in the way that we have rules and regulations that we are stringent about, we don't have a lot of issues. Occasionally there are things that pop up. Law enforcement, troopers, they're human. So we all make mistakes. Right. And sometimes those mistakes rise to a level where it's a problem. So, but that's just part of life, and we deal with those. But luckily for us as an agency, those are far and very few between. So we're very prideful of that. And I can say, as a civilian police commissioner for the town of Clinton, it's the same situation. They're a very strong organization. They're in a process of getting accredited as we speak. We're very fortunate to have Chief DeMayo as a chief here in town. He's a very forward-thinking law enforcement professional with a vast amount of experience, and he knows how to talk to people. He's very approachable, and that just trickles down through his rank and file of his police department, which has really made the Clinton Police Department the cream of the crop of the area.
Absolutely. And he's a great guy. I've had Chief DeMeo on with me a couple of times, and he's just a wonderful human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So what else is the Police Commission of the Town of Clinton up to? We've got a little bit more time left.
Yeah, so no, it's just really supporting the police department. Because of the police accountability bill that was enacted, they are working through getting body cameras and car cameras and all the requirements that come along with a bill such as this one. So, some police departments have some of the stuff, some don't. But again, it comes down to finding the money for it, which is another big issue. We as a commission, as well as all the other commission and boards in the town of Clinton, our number one goal is to make sure that the agency or the department has what they need. However, there's not a money tree which allows us to get whatever they want. It's got to be something that's really necessary. So I will say, just from my perspective as a police commissioner here in town, the police department does a phenomenal job with that. I know the police chief has really dropped the overtime line item down significantly over the last 5 or 6 years, and I was very impressed to see that. And it just goes to the culture that's been established within the police department, where it's very positive. People want to come to work. Very few people, very few officers have been out for any significant amount of time, whether that be getting hurt or what the case may be. So it just goes to show you that the rank and file of the police department look forward to come to work every day. The police chief and his captains, they do a great job in recruiting the best possible candidates that they can get for the job. And it's just an ongoing endeavor that me personally, I'm very, very proud to have a little bit of a part as a civilian police commissioner. And then with my law enforcement experience, being able to add what I can to assist in trying to make it better. But I will say the other commissioners alongside of me, I've had really an awesome time with them. They all have the best interests of the town, best interests of the police department at heart. And we really enjoy ourselves volunteering to be a commissioner. And it's really a nice position to be in, and I'm having a really good time with it.
Cool. Sergeant Rob Derry with the Connecticut State Police. Thanks for some time, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks again, Peter. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. On behalf of Rob Derry, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.